I've entitled this talk Lead Bright in the Energy Paradigm, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it from over there so that you can see a sort of brief slideshow. Now the plan is to take only about 20 minutes in talking, giving some time for questions, and the principles here you'll see as we go on through. So, Lead Bright in the Energy Paradigm, hit the next slide. So, just go through this. This is me. I'm the author of the book Lead Bright's Mission to Save the Planet. And anybody here, I think some people have got it. Anybody's read this book? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is awesome. Okay, anybody who wants a book signed by the author, you can happily have one today for a thank you, because I would like to thank you for a lovely lunch. And it's an interesting piece to fundamentally bring the education part. So, this is me. Next, why I got involved, and we've heard already a bit about this. 1, 2, 3 hits. Concerned with the lack of progress in energy, seeing the bad habits from the Western world going into the massive population areas, believing we can make a difference. Next. So, go back to the whaling industry, because we're going to talk about lights here. Do you remember the 1850s? Anybody? No? All right. I know we're all old here, right? Not quite as old as the 1850s. In the 1850s, we used to think it was wise to go and fish whales out of the ocean to get their oil to light our lamps. And then Edison came along and thought it was a better idea to use electricity. And that's fundamentally what happened. This is an example of brawn versus brain, the benefits of advanced technology. This is back in the 1880s. So let's just look at why the telecommunications industry has improved so rapidly. Okay, hit me with a whole lot. Improved supply, storage, effective delivery. There's a 70s computer. Here's one now, and it's way, way more powerful. Let's look at the measures. In 1970, the cost per megahertz was $368,000, down to 34 cents. That's a pretty impressive move. Right, let's compare that with the energy sector. Energy sector, we've had massive increases of use. Prices haven't really done anything different. So, big, big difference. Let's look at lighting now. So, lighting, we've got 3 types of lighting we've fundamentally been using. If we look in, the ceiling here, we'll find 75-watt lights that are giving about 90% heat, 10% lighting. Very useful. So, we get incandescent light, 1879, the halogen, 1882, and the fluorescent, about 1896. So, all our technologies are back in the 1800s. The CFL, by the way, the curly job here, right? So there's your halogen, there's your inky, and there's the halogen was presented in 1987 by Philips. Mercury product. Anybody get one of those CFLs? Anybody happy? No? You don't like them? They've got mercury in them. They don't turn on and off instantaneously. They're an appalling product, quite frankly. It's a complete disgrace that they were ever brought into play. Next. Here's part of the reason why we haven't had many advances. You say, why are we still using 1880s products? Why in computers we certainly don't do that. Well, there's something called the Phoebus cartel, which was set up in 1924. Philips, Sylvania, GE, to reduce the amount of light you get out of your light bulb from 2,500 hours down to 1,000 hours in 1924. Why did they do that? Sell more light bulbs. So now here we are, 89 years later, we still have an incandescent light bulb lasting 1,000 hours. Amazing progress. It's pretty good so far. So this was a report, let's go through the thing, written by McKinsey in 2011, basically saying switching to LED lighting is the best thing you do, better than changing emission on vehicles, solar systems. You can get on one more slide. It's from the McKinsey report in July 2011. Next. So LEDs are the solution. Is this true? So let's ask the experts, and now we go into our little note.
Sì, non ci mancherebbe sul serio se i romani se ne andassero. E dirò di più, gli altri pubblici d'orario si circolano bene. Lo sanno mantenere l'ordine, solo loro potevano riuscirci in un paese così. Va bene, ma a parte le fognature, vino, medicina, istruzione, asili pubblici d'orario, fine pubblico, irrigazione, strade, spiagge di vetro, finanze dei pagamenti in attivo, che cosa hanno fatto i romani per noi? Hanno portato la pace, figurati, che ho nel vecchio.
We knew they would do this better, all right? So anyway, what we did was we took this whole message line, looked at the new technology of LEDs, and we did a few things, right? Number one, we sourced some products, right? We're going to show you these in a few minutes. So our rules were get high efficiency, affordable, top quality, branded name products. Nisha was the company. That's a question for you. Who knows when the first LED light bulb came out? As a light bulb, what year? 87. How when? 87. No, 87 was the CFL. 1993, do you know which country?
Holland.
No.
Japan.
Thank you, Japan. And who brought which company?
Philips.
No. Any? Nisha. Do you know the engineer? No. Okay, we're clearly very educated about lighting here, right? So, anyway, this little bulb here that I have has a Nisha LED chip in it, right? It's 6 watts, it compares to a 60 watt. We're going to show you all these lights in a second. So firstly, we sourced some products. Next, we set up displays so that you could see the difference between the lighting. And the difference between an LED light and a conventional light, any of the other ones, is they last way longer, they don't have the same heat, so they're safer. There's a whole range of benefits that are different. Next, we wrote the book, and the book explains in an easy high fashion, why these things are better. And we sold product. So we've been around the place. We found this great customer called Kerrisdale Lumber. Have you heard of them? Whoa! Kerrisdale Lumber have been absolutely fabulous. I think actually this looks like one of your guys, doesn't it? There's Willie in Kerrisdale Lumber. So what we've done is basically by setting up displays, we've educated people. How many people changed their places out for LED anyway?
Hardly.
Oh dear. If I look at this room, all these lights in the ceiling are all 75 watts, they could all be replaced by 12 watts. Right? The savings are huge, right? And I'll show you some of the savings on some of the bulbs through. So just show me the next slide first, and go back again. Stop at the sold products. Now, if we have the lights up slightly, leave it there. I'm going to ask my two able assistants here, this is Alan and Bram, to show us some of the lights. So first I'm going to ask I'm going to ask Alan to show us a GU10, MR16 or PAR16. Has anybody heard of these? Mean anything to anybody? Yeah? Good. Okay, these are the spotlights that you have. So the spotlights that we're about to see, press the button. The top one is a 50 watt bulb. The second one is a 5 watt bulb. The difference in cost in these is the top one lasts 2,000 hours, the bottom one lasts 30,000 hours. The real cost of lighting those through the lifespan of the bottom bulb is $270 for the top one and $30 for the bottom one. Is as you reduce that wattage, you can start doing some exciting things with integrating solar. Your whole energy parameter here is a 90% energy savings in the products we've just been showing. It's anywhere between 80 and 90%. However, even better than that, you've got fun stuff now. So the new LED lights that Bram has now got up, are we switched on? Well, these ones are ones that not only can I turn them on and off remotely, right? I can also change colour. So if I want it warmer, I can make it warmer. If I want to make it cooler, I can make it cooler. I can also dim them as well, so let's make that top one a bit brighter. And we'll make that top one go orange. Now these are working from a Zigbee chip, and they could be in any of the bulb settings in the building. Not only can they run off remote control, they can run off iPhones and all sorts of stuff as well. Okay, next one here, we're going to show you something called the Corn, which is an autumn interesting product, which is basically lots of LEDs getting 100 lumens per watt. They're now in the lab getting 250 lumens per watt, which that compares with 8 lumens per watt for an incandescent bulb. So these things will work instead of any of those CFLs that you've seen around with mercury in them, in ceiling fittings, in hospitals, in all sorts of different locations. So it's another example where the technology, but it's a bit ugly to go, so you may want to have it behind a different setting. Now, the next slide I'm going to show, I'm really excited about.
David, do you have the new bulb, the water bulb, to do with this one?
Oh, I do.
Do you want to do that one?
I will do that one, yeah. Wait 1 minute.
Oh.
Hold your horses. Here I have in my hand, I call it my dinky, but everybody tells me off for saying that, so I won't call it my dinky anymore. Next slide. This we've called the Terminator, because it kills every other bulb. Now, one of the things you'll find when you're dealing with buying lights and LEDs in A19 shape, right? This is the regular shape. They can come with a heat sink down the bottom, because the lights don't get hot, but they have a heat sink. So by putting the light inside the bulb, you get rid of the heat sink and have the same design. So that means you get 360 light, you get all the same features of what you had before. And this is an example of a light with inside 120 lumens per watt. Awesome. So we're calling it terminating because it kills other bulbs, and then we can have a cover. So it looks like a bit like a designer bulb, but if you put a frosted cover, we're going to call it I Can't Believe It's Not Inky. Inky the incandescent. And now we come to the final exciting bit of lighting, right? Which is this in my hand, this dinky, is actually liquid cooled. It's full of liquid, right? It's pretty much indestructible. Can you catch this?
Yeah.
Who's going to catch it? Right. On the left now we're going to show you a 60 watt bulb. Top one incandescent bulb. Bottom one 6 watt. Full distribution of light. It questions from technology all the aspects we're looking at in terms of size of bulb. It questions the whole component of the cooling process, and quite frankly, it could end up being incredibly cheap. This is really bad news, you realise, for lighting companies. This is cheap. It will last 50,000 hours, and it'll give you amazing light. At the moment, it comes in a 6 watt, an 8 watt. $2 a bulb for our shareholders, $20 for the rest of you. And I think we're going to start promoting them at Carrisdale Lumber as our first site. No, but this is amazing technology. All right, so in lighting, I'm going to show you a couple of things here. Now, I'm afraid you didn't do very well on the lighting knowledge. So, who's really interested in lighting? Sure, I don't believe a word of it. Lighting is pretty low priority. Oh, I'll believe you. What about energy? Anybody interested in energy? Everybody. We've got to be interested in energy. Energy is, to a degree, the opposite side of the environment. The worse we are in energy, in a bad way, we screw up the environment. Right? There's some bad news here. We are leaving as a generation. I was writing a book called Our Generation's Report Card. The only area that got an A+ was technology. When I look at the environment, we're leaving 6 garbage patches in the oceans. We're all old enough here to be stupid together, and we are not doing very well in some of the areas that we're leaving our children's children at the present moment in time. In Canada, we're 11th out of 12 in energy efficiency. We are bottom only. Russia is one stage below. Wow. And now we're talking about a reduction in the fundamental energy generation to suggest, that it's better we can drill in the Arctic or convert 2 tons of mountain into a barrel of oil, cheaper than we can, for example, save waste heat in our homes. So there's loads of things we can do. So the author of this book, Ledbride himself, believes we can save 90% in this sector. So naive or me, and that's the excuse there. How many people have heard of Amory Lovins? Amory Lovins? One? No, that's it? Very interesting guy. Wrote a report in 1977. He is American, apart from that. He wrote a book called Reinventing Fire. He believes we can have no oil by 2050. Really interesting guy. Book worth reading if you're really looking at the changes in energy. Blessed Unrest, Paul Hawken, anybody? No? Oh my goodness. This guy is a complete leading edge guy who fundamentally says that there's already a new revolution going on with about 1 million groups looking at, human rights, indigenous people, environment, and other things. Finally, Shark's paintbrush. No? Okay. This guy is working seriously on biomimicry to improve engineering and design. This guy believes 40% reduction in energy. This guy's 80% reduction in energy. And this guy is just totally out there with complete details of how it can all be done. So the reality is lighting used to be about 20% of our energy need. Save 90%, you're down to 2%. Right? You can do it all with renewables by the time you reduce the wattage. It's coming back to next step. So let's just move into where we are now. Two options. We can't improve our energy performance, so prices go up, more pipelines, coal, oil, all of which we know have damaging features. Or we can. Technology improvements. Technology is probably the key, but integrated usage, prices drop, clean energy becomes more prevalent. And it's happening all over the world. We happen to be a bit slow here, but in Portugal they're up to 75% renewables, lots of different changes. Next, Arctic drilling and tar sands versus distributed energy. If you remember back, it started with the whaling side. I sort of relate us to being 150 years on in the same game, where the wisdom of doing whaling oil was the prevailing wisdom, and the light bulb came in and changed with technology. I think we're in exactly the same situation here with the developments of distributed energy. If you read a report just the other day, China backed $37 million into the oil sands, and they're not getting the right returns. So China are backing 10 horses. In Canada, we're backing rather less. And we may be risking. We're the greenest city in Vancouver, we have 0 renewables. I'm not quite sure I really buy all those things. So I'm probably going to stop at this juncture, just show me the next slide, and I will get back again. I'm also very passionate about thermal storage, which I believe can be done, but I'm not going to go into it today. So I'm going to stop there, and you can ask me all the most difficult questions that you'd like to, and thank you for your time.
Halogen lights that you have in the bathroom that are really, really hot and you can't touch and so on. Are you going to have lights that will replace those, or will you have to change the fixture altogether?
I think some of the new fixtures have been insane, especially on the CFLs, and they've had to do that partly because of the ballast needs. But when it comes to halogens, I suspect all of those lights will change to LED. The process at the moment is the big volume lights. So this is exactly the point I was trying to make, really, was you have two big markets here. The lighting market's $1 trillion market already, right? And every light on the planet, including all the ones in this room, all have to be changed, because it's insane what we've been doing. But what will happen is there's a conversion side, and there's a whole new technology side. Now, in underdeveloped places like Africa and everything, they'll do exactly what happened with the cell phone. They won't bother to go through this transition, especially with CFL, which were hugely promoted. Bad news with lots of mercury in the landfills and everything else. But everybody will go into the new things. Pretty much, if you look at some sectors like bicycle lamps, and torches and everything, they've gone straight to LED because it's crazy not to. This has all been slow, and partly, unfortunately, it's been because of the characters in the Phoebus cartel and the cartels in the lighting business. Philips, GE, and Sylvania have owned the business. They had more than 50% of the business for the last 100 years.
So you don't have to change the fixture, probably, right?
You might have to change some fixtures, but your straight halogen ones, they'll turn into LED.
Okay.
Can we hire you as a marketing person?
Of course.
We are planning, we are building one of the most advanced office buildings in town.
I'm there.
Everything is LED.
Yeah.
And we save about 85% energy cost in lights alone.
Yeah.
And we need your help to market it. It's so tough to educate the people.
Thank you. You're exactly right. The reason why this book got written was exactly for that reason. There are so many examples of all the things you can talk about, with energy being zero in passive houses and a whole range and raft of things, and you ask the question, why doesn't everybody follow best practices? In Denmark, they save heat in the summer for the winter. Well, it's not a bad idea, and they got virtually no loss because of the structures that they save it in. Do we do that here? No. You know, I mean, you're 100% right.
Isn't the major problem though the fixtures rather than the bulbs?
Yeah.
And the problem again is the lighting companies have bought all the shelf space. They don't care what you buy because they're a product. You know, so you go to Walmart, you go to Rona, you go to these different places. You're buying products that are supplied by the same people. Sylvania, an example, they're losing $500 million a year now, right? On 5 billion euros. They've been demerged from Siemens. It's a process that's happening just like Kodak went bust. If you can't, you know, keep the heat there, or totally involved and committed in old practice. So why the new pins came out for the CFLs, as an example. There's a whole range of fittings out there that are, you know, and they may have to change. E26 or E27, as they call them both things, are very, very standard, you know. And again, if the lighting industry is, you know, now what's happening is electronic companies like Sharp and Samsung and others are all coming into this space. And so I think what you're going to find is dramatic changes. Prices will drop, performance will go up, and it's all going to be good news. And then you're right. Some of the fixtures is just going to be just a waste of time having them. Just we'll get rid of them. You know, and it may be short-term cost, but at least then you'll have the ability, because this isn't the end result. If this thing works out, it's a liquid-filled bulb and it's $20. I mean, and again, this thing is. Someone said, well, when this breaks, going to make a mess. You know, this is virtually indestructible. You know, so what? And it'll last 50,000 hours. So what you're going to find is it's still going to get better. This is now about 100 lumens per watt, which is pretty good for current. It'll be up to 250 lumens per watt. So you're going to find, just like the computer industry, instead of you get a light that lasts a long time, it's going to get rid of your, you know, your industry. No, it's going to open the door, because now I want a light like that one that changed color. Oh, that's cool, you know. And so that's what's going to happen. So you may have changed fixtures.
Yeah, with declining income going to BC Hydro, how would they maintain the bureaucracy?
Oh, it's good that I paid you earlier, wasn't it? One of the questions I was going to ask you all was, who believes that Hydro's figures of 40% increase of energy in 2020 is really real? You believe it?
Yes,
Why?
because I don't have enough.
You have to pay their executive.
So the reality here is we're talking about spending, you know, 8 billion at minimum on a new Site C. You know, the whole principle of this book is when you go into a change environment. You know, I mean, we used to have big computers. You know, suddenly we ended up having a whole load of little ones. That's actually what happened. Now, when you get into distributed energy versus centralized energy, you've got a huge range of opportunities that will transform the world. You go around carrying on big projects, whether they're nuclear, whether they're coal-fired, whether they're dams. It's the same principle. You're putting all your eggs in one basket, and somebody whoever said it, yeah, they've got to pay their executives. Therefore, we better all buy our energy from them really expensively. Don't go off the grid, anybody, because otherwise these executives won't get paid. You know, I mean, it's a complete unfortunate joke, and it's not what's happening elsewhere in the world. You know, elsewhere in the world, there's lots and lots of microgrids and different, more flexible systems coming out. India just lost 650 million people, went out of power, including me, went out of power because they're still running coal-fired power stations from the 1940s when the Brits went out to put them together. And I think, last time I heard, it's sunny in India, isn't it? I mean, the principles behind solar energy is that you could have one day's, energy from the sun, and then it could last, a year for us, or 10 years.
I was just wondering if you could comment on the new law that I think the Canadian government passed on LED lights.
Brilliant. Okay, well, it's not really on LED lights, it's more on incandescent lights, and that's another fantastic question, which I was going to ask you all as well. Brilliant. Here's the question. We're banning incandescent lights now. The government's coming finally and stepping in, riding on a white steed to save the planet, and they're going to ban incandescent lights. Why are they banning incandescent lights?
Put in poison.
Yeah, they're putting CFLs in instead. But why are they banning them in the first place? Because I've got another question for you. If they're banning incandescent lights because they use too much energy, why are they not banning halogen lights? unfortunately, we've been conned for a long time. Right? The reason we're banning incandescent lights is because the industry hasn't been making money out of lights. They've been made in China and they're cheap. The halogens, the industry's still making money in. So, and you're absolutely 100% right. They're telling you you've got to get rid of these lights. I mean, people are stockpiling lights, right?
I have.
You have, and you're the most insane person in the world because why would anybody? Would you
You know
stop?
my wife?
Oh, sorry, and it's usually the women. It's just sorry, exceptions here. What you've got here is an example of stockpiling a technology product. Where if you wouldn't stockpile a 1980s computer because you think it was insane. You wouldn't buy a 1980s computer because it's bloody inefficient. Yet you'll stockpile an 1880s product. It's incredible. Ah! So your age of stupid wins. I'm going to the end, right?
Well, thank you very much, David. That was a great